Ravens OT updates. Tyler Loop struggling. Shemar Stewart, what's going on with that? So much more on this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Yes, thank you for coming through to episode 315 of the Purple Rain podcast. Yes, the Nelson Aguilar, Marquise Brown, Michael Crabtree, Ryan Mallett, rest in peace, episode. And actually, most recently now is Cooper Rush episode of the Purple Rain podcast. First of Cooper Rush's career as a Raven, hopefully mainly known as a backup for us. But thank you for coming through, spending your Thursday evening, your Friday Eve with us here at the Purple Rain Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. This guy above me, right here, on Instagram or on X at Sutton Death. Me, Instagram, simply as10.prod, or on X at simply as10. And most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped. Go on there, use code PRP for 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. The best deal on the internet. But Sutton, you were telling me, the week's flying by for you. For me, it's a pretty long week. But we are here back again to talk about some Ravens football, some news. No signings yet, if they were to happen. Um, but we had some around the league, nothing too crazy. But how are you feeling and how are we doing on this Thursday evening?
Feeling good, doing well. You're right. There are a couple of things, kind of floating around the castle in the league, which we are here to talk about in this episode 315. But forget how I'm doing. I want to see how the chat is in here doing as well. We've got the chat put up on screen here, as we will the entire episode outside of our Purple Rain Report segments. Want to get you guys involved a lot more here in the chat. So make sure you sound off if you are here watching this episode 315 live, and if you're not watching it live and you're part of the hashtag replay gang. First off, shout out to you. Hello. Appreciate you for coming through. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and then comment down below any thoughts, questions, concerns you might have. We'd appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and see who's here in the chat. We got Mod K Dog in the house. Says, "Yo, Rain Gang family, what's good on this hot Friday Eve?" Yeah, it's very hot across America right now. It's getting there. We're getting there. I mean, we're not even in like the Julys and the August yet, but like it's getting muggy outside, and I don't like it personally. Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty hot here. It's like our first hot week here in Maryland, I think. Pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, it's here in Texas. It's been hot for like maybe like a month and a half, maybe 2 months now. But like, it's really starting to heat up into like consistent 90-degree weather. So yeah, but there was some flooding here actually earlier today. That didn't really impact my area, but there were some areas around like San Antonio and whatnot that were impacted. So, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there, because I know that was a pretty tough time they were dealing with. But let's go ahead and see who else we have here in the chat. We got Dre in the chat, says, "What's up, Purple Rain Gang? What's going on, Dre?"
What up,
We
what
got
up?
the Chef 87 in here, says, "Good evening, fellas. I like the new layout. Appreciate you, Chef." Let me see. Cheat Gay is in the house, says, "Big up, guys. Also love the new layout. Appreciate it." Who's seen the new Mission Impossible movie? Is that the one he's talking about?
I have not.
I think it is. I think that's the Mission Impossible. I've seen a lot of new movies recently, but Mission Impossible is one of the ones I have not seen yet. So,
Really?
I actually just recently saw Ballerina, the John Wick story
Mhm.
movie with the girl. Now that was a pretty good one. If you're into action movies, definitely I'd say go check that one out for sure.
Yeah.
Dre says it's like 90 something here.
It
But yeah,
is. It is. Yeah, I mean, not all the movies I want to see. The F1 movie looks pretty cool. It's coming out. Um,
yeah.
that's the one that really piqued my interest, but I have not seen that yet, GK. I have not.
Yeah. All right. So, like we said, we got a couple of topics to touch on this episode 315 of PRP. So let's go ahead and get into our Purple Rain report. As you guys know, the title of the video says, Zach Orr gets some high praise. He actually got some very, very high praise just yesterday from Ravens defensive coach Chuck Smith, aka Dr. Rush, coaches up our edge rushers, outside linebackers. So without any further ado, I'll shut up. I'll just let you guys hear all he had to say about second-year defensive coordinator Zach Orr.
I lived it, I walked it, I seen it. I watched this coordinator stand on 10 toes. Zach Orr is the guy. Zach Orr, I'm telling you, is going to be an incredible coordinator. And let me tell you why. When we were struggling last year, I watched him stand in front of these mics every week and talk to y'all. He didn't flinch. But I also watched him stand in front of a room someday. I mean, we played after the Bengals. It wasn't like we were celebrating because they, from a defensive standpoint, they did a lot. They had great days on us. Zach Orr, man, looked those players in the eye. He never let the high get high or the low get too low. He stayed in the middle, and I'm telling you, he always would be positive, but he was tough. He's tough on the coaches and the players, and he would tell everybody. He would show everybody how close we were to actually having success. Like it might be an angle of a defensive back runs the ball, or it might be a pass rusher that ran past the quarterback and the quarterback ran. Zach would stand and talk to everybody, and he led. He never flinched. And watching this cat do it, and I know last year a lot of people, they were in the media were saying, well, this broadcast and talking. I lived it, I walked it, I seen it.
Wait, I think you're muted, Alex.
Sorry. Yeah, Chuck Smith. I don't think he'll be that edge rushing coach or a pass rush specialist that much longer.
Mm,
We were grateful we still got to hold on to him this year. I think we both thought he was probably going to get a job as a defensive coordinator somewhere, but he didn't.
yeah,
Thankfully for us, and for him to stand up for Zach Moore like that really does a lot. And it shows a lot, not about just the coach he is, but the man he is. Um, that just says a lot, and he could have easily, not done his weekly, press conference. He could have, shied away, but he didn't. He stood in front and, like you said, 10 toes down, so that was very promising to see, and I remember, I rewatched the Ravens-Bengals Thursday night game, and after we stopped them on two-point conversion, they panned to Zach Orr, and he wasn't excited. We just, Darius Washington just made a great play on whoever it was. I think Kazicki, and Zach Orr is shaking his head like in disgust. I think at himself for allowing, I think, what, 30 some points to them again, but it showed me who the coach he was. And he won a lot better. I think we will get a lot better. I think we'll probably get 1 or 2 seasons more of him as our DC before he is the next head coach of the NFL.
yeah. I can totally see that. I think that all signs definitely do point toward Zach Orr having a very, very big year too. I don't really see there being much of a regression, especially with the additions that we've made over the offseason, kind of bolstering that defensive line, especially the edge rushing room. I mean, the edge rushing room is kind of right now as full as it's been in I'd say years, to be honest with you, with vets like Kyle Van Noy, with emerging stars. Not well, I don't want to say emerging stars, but like emerging players like Adafe Owe, Mike Green, some young talent who has a lot of potential, sky high potential based off of his production in college. And then you talk about like a Malachi Starks to pair up with already best safety in the NFL, Kyle Hamilton. Like the pieces are there for Zach Orr to have a phenomenal year two and put him in prime position, like you said, to your point, to get that head coaching position, to get that head coaching look from one of these other teams around the league. And I don't doubt that it hasn't already started happening so far. I mean, I think maybe behind the scenes, he's probably been talking to people around the league. People have been talking to him. I would highly doubt if they were, especially after kind of like the turnaround that the defense made last year. And here's one point that I want to bring up that Dr. Rush was getting ready to allude to before the end of that clip that we just listened to. He was going on to say that, a lot of people in the media, said that, oh, last year the defense was course corrected because they bought in a guy, to help Zach Orr. And that guy was Dean Pease, if we remember correctly. I think it was what, week maybe 6 or 7, something like that, somewhere in the second quarter of the season, somewhere in there. The Ravens had went and acquired Dean Pease to kind of, I guess, just be that extra brain in the room, in the defensive coaching staff room. And we saw after that, the Ravens defense did get marginally better after a few games. Maybe in week 10 is when I think the turnaround, the shift kind of happened. But no, Chuck Smith, Dr. Rush, he was 10 toes down on saying, like, no, it was not Dean Pease. It was Zach Orr. He is the guy. He left no shadow of a doubt on who was the one who was calling the shots, who was the one with the concepts, the ideas to turn the ship around, who was the one with the moxie, who was the one with the leadership at the end of the day. And I think what you just spoke to, that what happened after that Cincinnati Bengals game, that was a game-saving play by Darius Washington on Gesicki. And for him to be in disgust after that, like a low like that is absolutely insane. And then to go from that to, I think it was on Christmas Day. If you were watching on TV, when I think there was a big interception or something like that, big play had happened, and he goes and he jumps over and he damn near does like a somersault, right? And almost like really injures himself. I mean, this guy is all in for the Ravens. I know a lot of us last year, including myself, around weeks 1 through 7 or 8, I was kind of skeptical on whether or not this was going to work. Same reason we were skeptical, with Mike McDonald. We were critical of him when he first started. Maybe a little bit more on Zach Orr based off of the pieces that we had in place, but either here nor there. I just think this is a very good look from Chuck Smith here, kind of bigging up Zach Orr.
Yeah, it was. I think that fourth down when Darius Washington stopped Joe Mixon on the sideline. I think
Mm.
that's where it was.
Oh, right.
Jumped
Yes,
over him.
yes, yes, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it speaks wonders about him, and I think it's easy for me to root for him as him, being a former player of ours, knowing his story, because not everybody I think knows his story. I mean, Ravens fans do, but NFL fans don't. So it is nice. I'm glad he did kind of, say, listen, like this guy knew what he was doing before we brought in DMPs and all that. I mean, help study the ship, but at the end of the day, Zach Orr is the one, like you said, coming up with the concepts, coming up with the play calls, coming up with the game plans, strategies, not DMPs. So I'm excited for what we have next year. And I mean, we did lose a lot, for last year for Zach Ware to go in there, but we still had talent all over the place. There really was no excuses. But I think for me, with a low point or one of the low points was that Browns game when Jameis Winston beat us. Eddie Jackson getting torched, like we had no business losing that game, and he just threw for over us, threw at us, against us. The drop pick. Times were low. We came back, fought back, and got through it all. And we had an easy schedule down the end of the road, playing the Steelers and their offense. But I'm looking at that game against the Bills. They successfully ran against us for the most part, but we held Josh Allen, the MVP, in check. I think 100 and some yards. And I thought we gave our offense a chance to win the game. Only thing we could have
yeah,
done better on defense is get a turnover or two. But outside of that, they didn't play that bad. And even, with some calls against us. So on the next year, we have a lot more talent, I think, on defense. I think we'll be a lot better starting off week one.
yeah. Dre saying here it was a reason why Mike McDonald was trying to hire Zach Orr and bring him over to Seattle with him. Yeah, I mean, guys know. Those who know. I think that's kind of what's going on here, and I think we're going to see a really big kind of leap to the forefront of media attention for a guy like Zach Orr. Because there's always like those one or two coordinators. The Ben Johnsons. And I remember years ago, like Frazier was up for it. I mean, every year there's a coordinator who like just really does his thing, and like by the end of the year, they're like, okay, yeah, where is he going to head coach at next? That sort of thing.
Yeah, let me throw one. Robert Salah with Niners when he
Oh yeah,
dude,
yeah,
he got more screen time than anybody I remember. They were
yeah,
always showing him on Fox, man. It was insane.
yeah, man. There's always like a coordinator media darling, right, towards the end of the season, and I think that Zach Orr could definitely be that guy.
Mike got
Let
it.
me see.
Mike McDonald was getting it.
Oh yeah, he was. That's right. The Chef 87 says he was invited to Ravens OTAs yesterday. He met Malachi Starks, Tavius Robinson, Roquan Smith, Aeneas Peebles, and Carson Vinson. All good dudes. I think Starks is going to be special. Wow.
The
I
chef,
mean,
first and foremost. That's very cool experience meeting those guys.
oh
Um,
yeah,
how was it there? And they're doing like construction, so you got to see it like up close and personal. You knew what happened, so let us
yeah.
know, who looked good. But man, that's actually really pretty cool.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Speaking of Malachi Starks, just really quick. I mean, I think that the media did a good job kind of highlighting him and some of his personality and stuff. That guy looks like he's going to be not only just like a team player, but I think like a really smart player on the back end of that defense. You know what I mean? I think he's going to pair absolutely perfectly with a Kyle Hamilton, because as we know, Kyle Hamilton is well noted as a crash out. You know what I'm saying? Like he wants to be up and around the line of scrimmage. He wants to be flying all over the place, making tackles, being physical, right? Catching guys at the point of attack. I think that when Malachi Starks kind of gets his sea legs underneath him, right, and he understands the game speed of the NFL, professional football a little bit better, and he's able to kind of, I guess you could say captain the back end of that defense and just allow Kyle Hamilton just to run rampant. Wow. you're talking about one of the best back ends of in the league, or just one of the best secondaries in general, right? Because we expect Nate Wiggins to make to make a second year leap. Marlon Humphrey still got some juice in the tank, so it's just like, man, man. I mean, the sky's the limit for this defense, for this team, really, but definitely this defense. I have very very high praise for the defense. But thank you, Chef, for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we have a lot of like can't really say up and coming guys like emerging stars is probably the best way to put it. I think Matt BK still is emerging. I don't think he had the year we thought he would have. I thought we want more sacks from him. So if we can get that
Right.
from him this year, and like I said, oh wait, those two. I mean, that's big. If those two guys can have really good years because we can use them in that sack production as well. And hopefully more turnovers. I see Tanja Bowman. Hey Flock, what is going on, Tanja?
What's up, Tanja? Let me see what else we have here. Chef also says he look out for Tavius Robinson. I think he will be a dog. Yeah, Tavius Robinson was another guy who got a lot of high praise from the coaches in yesterday's OTA interviews. That's a guy who they're kind of saying. I think Zach Orr was saying like he could be like a premier edge rusher. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he can also rush from the inside as well. So Tavis Robinson is one of those kind of like I think he's going to be one of those unsung hero type of players on the team. Like you're not going to see him all the time, but when he is in the game, he's going to make an impact because he will be fresh. And he is, man, he's got a nose for the football, man. He's got a nose for whoever's got the football. I remember in that playoff game against the Bills, he had a couple of really, really good, really big tackles, like really strong at the point of attack, violent. I love me some Tavius Robinson, man. How about you?
He's somebody I want us to lock up before it's too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can really see a breakout from a mile away from him. And not like a 10 sack, but like at least, 5.5, 6 sack guy, but not playing, 50, 60 snaps a game. And I don't
right.
want to lose a guy like him because I really like them. We've had a lot of guys like him who are very productive and leave us. I'm not saying they do great things after us, but they're guys who fit this defense. He definitely screams like one of those Ravens that can have a pretty damn big role in this defense. And like you said, they are really highlighting him and seeing the chef talk about him too. Definitely, not saying a big year expected, but a breakout year where he's being highlighted now by Tony Romo, saying this number 95 guy, watch out for him. Like you said, can go on the outside, inside, he can do it all. Yeah, the line of scrimmage for the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely love us some Tavius Robinson, man. We got Reed Lewis in the chat says Malachi Starks better ball out, man. We need another safety besides Hamilton. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be honestly the ultimate luxury to have a Malachi Starks ball out right next to Hamilton, like I was just talking about. So hopefully that does come to fruition. Mentioned something about Justin Tucker in the chat as well. I see we're gonna get to the kicker stuff later, a little bit later in the show. What else came out of those interviews? Was there anything else, Alex, that you took from any of those press conferences that you feel like we need to touch on?
I feel like Malachi Starks is just a born leader already, and maybe that's him going to Georgia, being around such success and such NFL pro made ready guys.
Yeah,
They mentioned like he already, I think, was scheduling like team walkthroughs at the hotel with the other rookies. Like you can't really teach that. You can't teach being a leader, and you can never have enough of them. Honestly, you don't have to be a vocal leader, but a leader like that, it does a lot. And I think I forget who talked about it, but somebody said like, I think maybe it was Bateman. He's like he considers himself a leader. Lamar isn't a vocal leader, but he's still a leader. Roquan's obviously the guy you think of vocal wise, or when Calais Campbell's here, but having a guy like that coming as a rookie, just even with the rookies, getting them together, that's really big, and it can only do good things for this defense. So that really stuck out to me hearing that. And then also Bo Braid, he should be good.
yeah,
We avoided any major I word scare and the
yeah.
Wuzier as well. So
Minor,
happy to see
both
that. Yeah,
minor.
very minor. Might miss next week, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they'll be back for training camp.
Yeah. Dre says here, I see in the chat, I want to see how David Ojabo responds to these additions to the edge room. Yeah, I mean, David Ojabo is in a very peculiar spot because he's kind of sandwiched in between like young talent who everybody expects to like have some a really high ceiling and really high potential in Mike Green, and kind of like the veterans like Adafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy who are still very productive, and he's kind of like right in the middle of that where like he's not as productive as the guys who've been there, and he's not as promising, right, as the guy who's underneath him who just got drafted. So I think that at this point, if you're a David Ojabo, you're really looking forward to the preseason. What's the date for our first preseason game? Can you look that up for me really quick,
I
Alex?
want to say
Let me see.
August 7th.
August 7th.
I want to say that August 7th, Thursday, August 7th. Perfect.
Thursday, August 7th
7
needs to
p.m.
be the date that David Ojabo has circled on his calendar. You know what I mean? Because he's going to get reps out there, he's going to get opportunities, and he's going to have to dominate if he does not want, a chance to actually get cut. Dre says it here in the chat. He might get cut, sadly, but he's got to ball out preseason. So he agrees. I mean, like that's where he's at in his career right now because everybody wants to see Mike Green, but everybody also wants to see, okay, Adafe Owe, can he build on those 10 sacks? Does Kyle Van Noy have another season or two left in the tank for him? You know what I mean? And we just got done talking about like a Tavius Robinson who's on the up and up. So like you have to, if you're a David Ojabo, if you want to play for this team, you got to ball out in the preseason.
And when you look at the depth chart, the only person who I'd put him maybe ahead of is Adisa Isaac. Outside of
Yeah.
that, everybody's ahead of him. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's completely his fault. Sucks going down, but that's just the NFL, not for long, man. So if he, can play well, I hope he does. I hope we have a problem with managing all these guys on the roster with the talent. That's kind of a good problem to have. But if he doesn't, that's obviously, already kind of a swing and a miss second round pick at 45, I believe. But you want to at least get something out of him. And right now it's not looking the best.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Let me see here. We got Reed Lewis in the chat says, I like that wide receiver from Colorado. Watch out. Him and Zay could do something. I assume he's talking about LaJohntay Wester, who's been in the media a lot for the Ravens recently. There was a Ravens Wired clip that dropped on the interwebs yesterday that I watched with, Coach Harbaugh coaching him up in what he knows best, special teams. And I was not surprised to see that. But LaJohntay Wester is a guy who I think he could fly under the radar as, I don't want to say like maybe like our next Tylan Wallace role kind of guy. But that's kind of what I'm looking at for him, because I don't really see, the Ravens holding on to Tylan Wallace forever. What's Tylan Wallace's contract, by the way?
A 1 year extension.
1 year extension. So yeah, I mean, after this year, I think that LaJohntay Wester is going to be the guy they're grooming. He's going to get some opportunities, but I think they're grooming him to kind of take that role. I have seen a lot of fans want to, get him involved more so as a wide receiver as opposed to like one of the gadget guys, one of the special teams guys, things like that. But what say you about LaJohntay Wester currently?
Yeah, I don't want Tylan Wallace to leave because I feel like he always has a big player too that win us a game. But when you talk about LaJohntay Wester, I feel like kick returns, maybe punt returns, like that's his bread and butter. He might get sprinkled around on the offense, but he is just explosiveness and speed. I watched the same clip as you, and it was nice to see Harbaugh out there. Obviously, we know he coaches him, but like just kind of the drills he was putting him through, make him catch punts with his weak side, weak hand,
Yeah.
stuff like that, make him do a full 360, try to get yourself in the spot where you don't have to move and you just catch the ball. I guess for a fair catch and stuff like that. I mean, that's just very good stuff that you can't really emulate with that actual in-game experience. But either way, good to see. But yeah, he's gonna be a special teams guy. I saw Keaton Mitchell was talking. He wants to do kick returns this year. So if we have a kick return competition with LaJohntay Wester and Keaton Mitchell, I'm fine with that. That is a lot of speed. I prefer Keaton Mitchell to have most of the snaps on the offense, but it's good to know we always have an option back there with his speed as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Dre also says, I want to see Tez Walker involved in deep plays more, get him in on some play action. Yeah, I mean, a whole lot of options, man. Whole lot of options for this Ravens team, man. It's gonna be hard. I think in some scenarios, it's gonna be hard for guys like Tez Walker, guys like LaJohntay Wester, some of the guys who are on the lower end of the totem pole when it comes to pass catchers for the Ravens, to kind of get their reps in, to get the plays drawn up for them. Like that play that Tez Walker scored a touchdown on, that was drawn up for him. Like it's now with like a DeAndre Hopkins being like wide receiver 3, not to mention Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely as well, Derrick Henry, the threat of Lamar, Zay Flowers is healthy again. I mean, there's just a lot of guys. So, you know, but I think that I do see Todd Monken having a couple plays up his sleeve for one of these young guys, just like he did with Tez Walker last year, just to throw defensive coordinators off guard. Like when you need one, or like when you just want to get a cheap one, because that was a very cheap touchdown. I mean, Tez Walker was wide open. It was back of the end zone, toe tap. It was a beautiful catch, but wide open, caught the whole defense off guard. I think that Todd Monken will definitely draw up some plays for guys like that, and I can't wait to see him.
And you said Ojabo has August 7th circled. So should Tez Walker. I'll be honest with you. Um, Having Cooper Rush back there and not a Josh Johnson or a Devin Leary or a guy like that. You have an actual gunslinger of a quarterback who, not calling him the best guy out there, but he's, for preseason measures, he's probably a star quarterback to be out there. Throwing, he was
Yeah.
starting games for the Cowboys just last year. So to have him out there, I mean, that's pretty damn good for you. So hopefully you'll be getting some good balls thrown your way, not some lame ducks, and really go make your mark on why you should be on this team. So August 7th for a lot of guys is gonna be interesting, but I think this year more than I like preseason, it'll be really fun to watch for fans like us who know all these guys, second, third, fourth stringers, and seeing who really rises when the
Yeah.
games matter.
Yeah. Basically, last chance you. Last chance you for a lot of players this upcoming NFL preseason, man. It's gonna be interesting. I can't wait though. We're only a couple months away. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our next topic of the evening. What else we got? We got the Bengals, our buddies in Cincinnati, man. They are really doing a number right now on this contract situation with Shemar Stewart. So let's go ahead and let's hear from Shemar Stewart and how he feels about this whole situation.
That black sheep.
Is it fair to say at this point that you will not step foot on the practice field in practice until you're signed?
Yes.
How badly do you want to be on the field?
Very bad. I mean, I've been doing this for most of my whole life, and then all of a sudden it's gone over something very simple to fix. It's kind of disappointing.
Have they given you any answers as to why they're choosing this year and you to set a new precedent?
If I really wanted to say, yeah, I can't say what I really want to say, but
Yeah, Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, you managed to outdo yourself every time. You didn't want to pay Carson Palmer. He walks. Then you had the whole Joe Burrow. Then Jamar Chase. T. Higgins requested a trade not once, but twice. So you pay him. You pay Jamar. Pay Joe. You have over 50% of your cap to three guys. All right? Then the one very valuable guy in your defense, in Trey Hendrickson, you don't want to pay. The only
Right.
guy who has more sacks than him over the past 3 years is TJ Watt, who first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done.
Yeah, but Trey Hendrickson's getting old, and they must have a young guy waiting in the wings to replace him, right?
Oh, of course. So they draft him. They draft him.
Yeah.
Didn't make the playoffs, so you have a good pick, middle of the pack pick. Kind of like what we did a couple years ago. We had at 14, I think they had 16 or 17. Get Shamar Stewart. Surely he's been practicing,
Yeah.
getting ready to fill in the void with Trey Hendrickson possibly being
Oh
out.
yeah.
Surely, right?
Excited to be an NFL player.
Yeah. But there's just one little thing. If he gets hurt, that money, oof. Now, mind you, first round pick, worked all your life for this. We've seen damn near everybody sign their rookie deals. Hell, Malachi Starks was practicing without a contract. Ronald Humphrey said it. Shamar Stewart left their mandatory training camp. Nowhere to be found.
Insane stuff. If I'm a Bengals fan, and weirdly enough, I've seen Bengals fans defending the Bengals on this today on Twitter. It was a weird phenomenon this morning that I was just kind of taken aback by, because just like, how can you look at this situation and think that the Cincinnati Bengals are in the right with how much you just said it? I mean, what, half the cap space invested on three guys, all offensive players. You know what I mean? Like, where do you expect to stop teams? Because you can't just score 30, 40 points every single game. And yes, they were in the top 10 in points per game last year. I think they were number 10 actually. But you can't win that way. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs, right? Like, you have to have a defense, and like the fact that they're taking the term or the phrase defund the defense to a whole nother level. It's insane. It's insane. Like, I mean, like we just mentioned, Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks, 17 and a half sacks last season. I think 35 and a half over the last 2 years. Like you mentioned, only him and TJ Watt have had numbers like that. I just cannot understand for the life of me, in an AFC North where pass rushes, they just kind of grow on trees, right? In the AFC North, you got the TJ Watts. You've got, who I think TJ Watt's going to get a deal done with the Steelers here soon. You've got with the Ravens with Odafe Owe, Kyle Van Noy, now a Mike Green young star. And then, it's just, and Miles Garrett, of course. But it's just like there's so much going on. You have to recoup. You have to retain your star players on defense, and it seems like they're not invested in that at all. But doing Shamar Stewart like this, like basically kind of doing something so unprecedented and saying that, yeah, we'll sign you, but if you do end up getting hurt, we want to recoup on all that investment. Like we want all that money back. So basically, screw your financial security, screw your future, like screw your generational wealth or whatever you had planned for, that money. If you were to get hurt playing for our team, like providing services for our team, that's for lack of better words, that's fucked up. I'm not gonna lie, and excuse my language, but like you just don't do players like that, and especially young players, right? Because they're all bright eyed and bushy tailed. I'm sure he was. You look at the clip that I just played. I mean, he looks like he doesn't look happy at all. I mean, he's got his fist on his face like this, like he's not happy. You know what I mean? Like this is not the way to usher him into your franchise because now even when you do pay him, he's gonna be still looking at you with a side eye. And that's not something that you want from a young player who you want to be focusing on practice, who you want to be focusing on kind of getting the tools to sharpen their skill set to get to that NFL, that professional level, and understanding the game speed and all those things. So I mean, it's I don't understand. I truly don't understand. They should make like a sitcom like comedy about the Bengals front office. You know what I mean? Because it's just like
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing, man. And the thing about it is the cap is raising every year. You're gonna
Yep.
have the money down the line. So like, why are you putting this language in the contract trying to say that, like, oh yeah, if you get hurt, then we're gonna screw you? Like, I just don't understand it, Alex. I don't.
I don't think we're supposed to. I don't think we're meant to understand it, and that's fine because I don't get it. Uh, I don't get some of the decisions they've made, and I probably won't. I know when the whole Lamar contract stuff was going on, me and you were team Lamar. We weren't, saying, "Oh, well, he should take less money." Like we kind of knew he was worth it. I still think he's worth more than this contract with what he's done. I still think he's underpaid, and for Shamar Store, like for that clause to be in there, we've seen it time and time again. Guys will sign big contracts, and they do get hurt that first year. I mean, that's what you can't predict these things. So if you're worried about a potential word, maybe you should have not drafted him. You could have drafted somebody else. You had all these other players to draft, and now you're gonna, start with him. This is just I don't know this. I've never seen this before. This is very interesting. I'm happy it's not us.
Yeah,
I'm happy like why'd it have to be us? For them, I mean, more drama that they have to deal with, and so be it. Have it, but I am team Shamar Stewart on this one.
yeah.
It's messed up.
I am too. I am too. And I want to read this because I just saw this on Twitter. Shamar Stewart holds all the leverage. If an NFL rookie does not sign their contract after being drafted, they can re-enter the draft the following year. They can also choose to enter free agency and potentially sign with another team if the draft team rights to them aren't traded. A player who does not sign can also choose to sit out the season and re-enter the draft later. I mean, if you're
You're
the
in your
Bengals, man, you got to get this done, right? You have to get this done. This is not the talks, the conversations that you want to be having coming out of your franchise in June. Like it's just not, man. I mean, I don't understand, man. They must think that the term defense wins championships. They must have heard the opposite. Offense wins championships, which it does. I mean, this is definitely an offensive driven league, but if you cannot stop a Lamar Jackson on third and long, if you cannot stop a Josh Allen, you know what I'm saying? If you cannot stop, a Patrick Mahomes, a Justin Herbert, a CJ Stroud, I mean, if you can't stop these guys, you're not going to win games. You're not going to make the playoffs. I see here Dre said Bengals could potentially miss the playoffs again. Man, I mean, I really do think that they're doing a disservice to the superstar quarterback that they have over there in Joe Burrow. I really do.
yeah. I mean, we saw what their offense did last year. You know, Zach Taylor said he had the MVP. He had the offensive player of the year and the defensive player of the year all on the same roster. MVP Burrow,
Yeah,
OPOY Chase, DPOY Hendrickson, and they still missed the playoffs. Went toe
insane.
to toe with us. Lost both games. Put up 30 plus points. I think 5 touchdowns. Burrow threw in that second game. Lost them both. You have to switch the philosophy at some point, and they haven't. And they're still sitting on that 2021 Super Bowl appearance. Their defense was a lot better back then, and they go ahead
Yep.
and release Jermaine Pratt, who I actually watched back his season last year. actually a pretty good season. Let go of their starting linebacker for some money they had to free up. They still have not signed their first round pick. So now you're down your main linebacker. You have Logan Wilson, who was a hip drop king. Put it out there. You have Cam Taylor Britt, who still was looking for his ankles that Rashad Bateman took. Um, and you have your starting edge rushers not practicing.
Hmm.
And Geno Stone, who their fans were turning on last year, midway through the season.
You hate to see it, man. Well, you love to see
You know,
it.
just
You
come
love
on
to see
back.
it.
We have a spot for you. I don't care. You know, Malachi, Kyle, you can come back, get your 7 interceptions. We got you. You can leave them.
Yeah. Dre says here, people forget the year they went to the Super Bowl. The defense carried them through the playoffs. Yeah, their defense was very good. And I just don't know what they didn't see coming out of that season to just kind of say, like, okay, we're going to throw all of our money at the offense. I mean, honestly, if we're being completely honest with you, they should have moved off of T. Higgins. If we're being completely honest, they should have moved off of him. I know it's business, but they needed to invest that capital somewhere else. I mean, to get stronger on defense because, like I said, you can put up 30 points all you want, or when you can, when you're not playing a stout defense. But if you can't keep up with their offense, and there's a lot of really, really good offenses in the AFC specifically, it's gonna be a tough go of it trying to get to the playoffs. That's for sure. So
I can't agree with you more. I mean, I agree. They have Yoshi Voss, who I really like. Not
yeah,
saying he's going to be, T. Higgins 2.0, but they've proven they can develop receivers. I mean, you can go down their list of the Bengals. They've developed them like it's nothing. The same way people look at the Ravens defense, like, oh, there's another Raven, just good again. And then he goes and gets paid. We, move off of him. So, I mean, that's insane. Like what he's making. Chase and anybody next to him is still a good 1-2 duo because of how much attention he demands. Like I look at what the Vikings did. They had Jettas and they get Addison. They drafted him. That's a damn good 1-2. You're gonna sit here telling me they couldn't draft somebody in the first 3 rounds receiver wise that wouldn't be a good 2 with Chase? I don't.
yeah. They should have traded Higgins. Like Dre says, their Bengals have always been great at finding talented wide receivers. This is true. Killer Cam says right before that, you got to blame Joe Burrow for that because he demanded to keep both Chase and Higgins. I mean, but for me, if I'm running a franchise, if I'm an NFL GM, I am going to just make the cutthroat decision, the executive decision, right at the end of the day, the big boy decision to go ahead and save my money, my team the money where we need it. It's like, if you want to, I don't know, if your kid asks you to go to McDonald's and you don't have McDonald's money, right? Are you still going to take them to McDonald's or are you going to go home and eat at home, right? Because that's going to save you money, right? You got to make the executive decision sometimes. Like, I think that's just what it is, especially if you want to compete in a very, very fierce AFC North where, the defenses are stout and then, offenses are really good too with Lamar Jackson and company. And we'll see what happens over in Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean, you got to be able to compete. You got to be able to compete on both sides of the football. And that's what's paramount here. All right.
Yeah, and don't complain if your defense is giving a bunch of points. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like complaining about your Subway sandwich. My brother, you made the sandwich.
Right. Yeah. You know,
Pick them. Like I said,
right.
having Chase Yoshi Boss and somebody else is still a damn good top 3. Losing Higgins, you either get another lineman to help protect you or another defensive player to help you get the ball back. I don't see, the negative in that. You're losing Higgins, I get that, but you are gaining a lot of just good ball players on either side. So glad it's not
Yeah.
us.
Right. Yeah, man. It's all about balance. Life is all about balance. All right. But moving on here to our last topic of the show. So there was another little remnants coming out of Ravens OTAs yesterday about the special teams kicking situation. As we all know, Justin Tucker is no longer a Raven, and we now have Tyler Loop in the fold as a Baltimore Raven. And yesterday, it was reported that Tyler Loop went 5 for 9 on field goals at Ravens OTAs on Wednesday, with all of his misses coming from 50 yards or longer per multiple reports. So this is something that was interesting to me. It had the fan base kind of in a frenzy, a little slight frenzy, nothing too crazy, but I kind of joined in on it a little bit myself. But we talked about this before. with a rookie, he's going to have his ups and downs, his struggles. We really don't know what to expect, but I think like a baseline, I think we could say is pretty much just as good as Justin Tucker was last year. With Justin Tucker, all his struggles and things like that, I think that could be that could serve as a good baseline for what we can expect Tyler Loop to do, because Justin Tucker wasn't all that great last year. If we're taking the entire season into account, but. Alex, what did you make of Tyler Loop struggling yesterday in OTAs, missing all of his field goals from 50 or plus?
You know, it's early. It's very early. I'm not surprised because it's the NFL. It's a whole different thing. Once again, August 7th, Tyler Loop, have it circled. You know, these games don't matter. Give him a bunch of 55 or 50-yarder field goal attempts in the actual game on turf, and in a situation where he has guys running at him who want to hit him, who want to lay him down, block the kick. Go for
Yeah.
it. I think next month, when we're starting to hear it more and more, I'd be a little bit more worried. But as of right now, like I'm not that worried. He's had days where he's been absolute money, and he has days like that. That's what coaching's for. That's what John Harbaugh's for. All those guys, I'm sure they are trying to alter the way he's maybe standing, kicking,
Yeah.
standing. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not really worried right now. Like I said, next month maybe a little bit more worried. But
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that they probably are kind of maybe like tweaking his form and kind of, coaching up his game in a way that's kind of making him make real time adjustments. I think like going into a game, he'll be locked into like a routine, like a specific form, things like that. And, maybe we won't see struggles like this because, I mean, we heard reports of him, drilling field goals from 60. I think he hit one from 62 at Arizona, which was a school record, I want to say. So it's just like, you know, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but it is worth mentioning that it's just it is a little bit concerning, like from the outside looking in. But the way that we broke it down just now, I think that we do have to kind of, like I said, again, take it with a grain of salt.
it's funny you mentioned that because I saw a Bengals fan making fun of this, making fun of Luke missing.
Yeah,
I'm like, my brother in Christ, your first round pick is not even practicing. So you can't even be making jokes at us. But I'd be happy too
yeah,
if Justin Tucker, who consistently will make just long field goals on them in high leverage situations, left. I get it. You want this next guy to be bad, and who knows? And Dre says here we had Stover and Tucker. As fans, we got to realize shoes like that are going to be hard to fill. Yeah, you know, back then, thankfully, social media wasn't that big of a deal when Tucker came in 2012. Like Twitter was just popping, but nothing real crazy. Where like fans actually were asking, how many field goals was this undrafted guy from Texas making?
right,
I mean, we have more information out our hands. So
yeah,
if we saw, a couple days ago, like, oh, you made all these, I'm feeling good, and we didn't know about this today, we wouldn't be feeling this. So long way to go. I think we made the right choice. Come week one, he'll be making. I think he'll make a 50-some yarder our first game. Get the nerves out the system.
yeah. I mean, there's going to be moments where he's going to have to make game winning field goals, like you said, high leverage situations, and that's going to be absolutely nerve wracking for me, and I know a lot of other Ravens fans as well. But I do want to you know put this on it as well. I think that the Ravens will still go out and potentially acquire a veteran kicker, a more established kicker, bring him in and just kind of see what the competition is looking like between Tyler Loop and this veteran, whether that's like I don't know, like a Cade York or like a Michael Badgley or like some of the other guys we talked about. I mean, I think guys like maybe like Nick Folk or, you know, uh, Prater might be
Goggles,
a little bit too,
UFL.
or yeah, Rodrigo, yeah, Blanken's still out there as well. So I think that they will bring in a guy just to kind of, give him that competition. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the best route, honestly, is for Loop's confidence. Maybe is get a guy from the UFL. Like they aren't from the NFL, but they play pretty good here in this league. So let's see, if they get cut, it's not the biggest of deal. You know what I mean? Like, and signing them isn't a big
Right.
deal. You're bringing them in to give them a
Yeah.
tryout. It's
Yeah.
not bad whatsoever.
I
Um,
like that.
if you bring a guy like Michael Badgley, I think that's a competition. 'Cause he was pretty good. Like, the thing with him is like he's good for like a year or so with the team, and he just drops down. Happened with the Chargers. He the playoff game in 2018. I think he kicked them past us couple of field goals. Then Lions, he had it locked down. Real good year. Then they bring the guy in, I think Bates from the UFL, and he takes over. So
Yeah.
there are certain guys, if they sign him, it's like, okay, he's probably going to be a starter. But I think the UFL route is probably best for Loop's confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I like the UFL idea because, I mean, you bring in a guy from the UFL, very low stakes, right? You can just kind of tell Tyler Loop, hey, look, outkick this guy straight up. You know what I mean? Like, just outkick this guy, and that's going to put our confidence in you. It's going to put confidence in yourself, and we'll be ready to rock and roll for the season. So I think that's a really good course of action. We'll see what the Ravens end up doing, but I do think, not for nothing, they will bring in somebody. They will bring in somebody to kind of compete with him throughout camp, and I think we'll hear news about that maybe in the next couple of weeks as training camp nears.
Hey,
Let
if
me see
you're
what else.
interested,
Yeah, go
DC
ahead.
Defenders and Michigan Panthers, 8 o'clock this Saturday, UFL Championship. So maybe you're watching the future Ravens kicker.
Okay,
It's going to put out there.
okay. This Saturday, UFL Championship. You heard it here first. Definitely, we'll check that out. Okay, let me see. All right. See Tandra sounding off in the chat. If the rookie makes us lose games like Tucker did, fans will crash out.
Yep.
Our seating is on the line. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yep.
a lot of those early games, especially the games against the Bills and the Chiefs, are going to be very, very important for how we're seated by the time it's all said and done in playoff time. So, man, beginning of the season is going to be tough, but it's going to be very, very important. And those high leverage situations, again, like you said earlier, like, we're going to need somebody to step up, and hopefully Tyler Loop is the guy who we can put our trust into, kind of like we did with Justin Tucker until we couldn't anymore. But yeah, hopefully Tyler Loop is our guy.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But okay, so I think that's all we had for today in this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Appreciate all you guys for coming through. This has been episode 315. Before we get out of here, my name is Sutton Def. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def. You can follow him down there, SimplyAS10 at SimplyAS10 on Twitter, or SimplyAS10.prod on Instagram. Or you can just find him anywhere at SimplyAS10. You can find us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. And make sure you go on Manscaped. Manscaped.com has all of your men hygiene needs. You can use our code PRP for 20% off plus free international shipping. But with that being said, I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Yes, thank you for coming through episode 315 of the Purple Rain podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, stay positive, test negative.
Yes, yes, yes. And never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. So episode 315 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next one.